Right. It's 29 August 2024, and today I'm going to be giving you my update on all the trending news that are taking place in Zimbabwe. And I want to start with what's happened yesterday. And this is very, very important. So yesterday, Hopewell Chin'ono had a live or a space on various platforms, but this was being done through an X space by Boss Salani. And you can go and see the full space in which he spoke about a lot of issues. So specifically, Hopewell Chin'ono has clarified the issue of the government in exile, and he has also clarified on his future plans, what is going to happen to Hopewell Chin'ono. And Chin'ono has said he's no longer going to be returning to Zimbabwe, and this is for a very, very long time. He's not planning to go back to Zimbabwe. He also spoke on his relationship with Nelson Chamisa and said he has in the past approached Nelson Chamisa with ideas, the idea of what he's talking about now, which is formalizing the relationship or formalizing his relationships with all these people all over the world and making sure that instead of him doing things by himself, these things are done through a formal structure. And he says it's approached Nelson Chamisa, but Chamisa has not shown interest in that idea. What I've done is I've summarized everything. If you go to Gambakwe.com, you're going to see that we've summarized the conversation that Hopewell Chin'ono has had. And coming to allegations against Nelson Chamisa, Chin'ono has said he's not going to be revealing any details anymore about Nelson Chamisa. He has left Nelson Chamisa alone. And he is surprised that the supporters of Nelson Chamisa are still coming after him. So that was a very interesting revelation. I could see the pressure on Hopewell Chin'ono, and this means he has been listening and watching everything that has been happening and has decided that this is not worth it, fighting Nelson Chamisa and revealing details about what Chamisa did and also trying to make Chamisa do something. This he has seen as something not very useful and has decided to leave. He said his advisors or people that he's working with have said to him, why don't you just leave these spaces? Don't go out and speak on social media because it's useless. Speaking on social media, there's no value to him speaking on social media. So this is what Chin'ono has said, and I've summarized it for you. I've removed a lot of the detail. I've only made about 4 or 5 pages out of this whole discussion. So Hopewell Chin'ono appearing to be under a lot of pressure. I could see the amount of pressure that was in when he was talking. It was a situation that I can say is very uncomfortable because he is not against Chamisa. He's just trying to make the situation better in the country. And unfortunately, what happens is in Zimbabwe, people are very close to the person that they support politically. And this is a massive problem. Going into the future, you cannot have politics that is not aligned to an individual. And I think Chin'ono has seen it himself, that he cannot say, I don't support an individual, because the people that support that person are going to come out very hard on him. And they have done so. There's been a lot of pressure on Hopewell Chin'ono these past few days. So let's see what happens after he's revealed that he's no longer going to form a government in exile. What is the next move for Hopewell Chin'ono? As I said, this has been very damaging on his brand. The revelations that he was going to make and the failure to then come out and say what is it that he was saying, and then forming or announcing the placeholder name, which is the government in exile, and then walking back on that government in exile, and now saying that he's not going to be saying anything about Nelson Chamisa and blaming the supporters of Nelson Chamisa for all the problems that he's facing. So he has said most of the problems that he's facing are due to the supporters of Nelson Chamisa who have been coming hard on him. So I think you can go and check it out, gambakwe.com. We've summarized the conversation, and I've shared it on Gambakwe Facebook page. If you go over there, you're going to see this information that I've shared. Now, I want to go into some news. I've got quite a bit of news today. And today I want to start with a very interesting man here. And this man is the former CEO of the National Biotechnology Association, or the NBA of Zimbabwe. This man was employed as the CEO of the NBA in 2013 and was fired in 2019. Yesterday, the High Court has ordered Jonathan Mufandaedza to give back a Range Rover, which he had refused to give back to the NBA. This is a state-owned organization. And other items that he has taken from the NBA. The reason why Jonathan Mufandaedza was fired is because he abused money from the NBA, and this was in 2017. He took $10,000 for a report that was written by a subordinate and got paid for that report. He went to South Africa and spent $6,000 on expenses and did not say what expenses those were. He took 28,000 liters of fuel, and then he put his gardener and housemaid and probably his son on the payroll of the NBA. And he was in court for all these allegations. But as you know, Mufandaedza is someone from Masvingo, right? So he obviously got acquitted of the whole charges. But he stayed fired because the allegations were so bad. But he still got out. And the High Court has said he must give back the car. That is what he must do. He must give back the car. I think that's the only thing that he has to give back so far. He's been fighting this whole case, but unfortunately, the NBA has won. And speaking of cars, Justice Mayor Wajgajena has received back his cars that were taken away by the ZAC. So he can now drive around in one of the most exclusive cars ever in the world. This car is worth $5 million. 5 million rands, not US dollars. So that is not a lot of money, but here in South Africa, this car is only worth about 5 million US dollars, rands. So that car has been given back, and this is the cars being delivered back to him after the court ordered that he was not supposed to lose his cars because he was actually not corrupt. So Justice Mayor Wajgajena has received back his car, his 2 cars that were taken by the ZAC. And then Mnangagwa has left Zimbabwe. He's going to China for what is called FOCAC. That is a Forum for China-Africa Cooperation. And he was seen off by General Chiwenga and Tembo Mohadi. General Chiwenga is the acting president right now as we speak. And he is going to be presenting or being a guest of honor in Victoria Falls today. So that is General Chiwenga. And you can see the 3 guys there. What is interesting to me is the shoes, right? If you look at the shoes of these 3 guys, you are going to see Kuti on the left, Mnangagwa and Chiwenga. They're all wearing a shoe without a shoelace. And Mohadi is the only one who's wearing a shoe with a shoelace. Very interesting. I always, when I look at the picture, I spend like 10 minutes observing what is going on with the picture. And the ambassador of China in Zimbabwe, Zhou Ding, is been tweeting about this for quite some time, since April 14. I've been following this, and he's been all over the place. This is probably one of the most active ambassador in the whole of Zimbabwe, Zhou Ding, the Chinese ambassador to Zimbabwe. He moves around a lot. He has also donated some maize and some foodstuffs to the Zimbabwe government. He's got a very close relationship with Mnangagwa, and he often visits Mnangagwa at his office, and he tweets and makes a lot of statements. Like, he is not shy to make statements about things So if you check out his Twitter, Zhou Ding, you'll be very interested to see that he makes controversial statements like talking about minerals and all that kind of stuff. He's not a shy ambassador at all. And he's also tweeting about this FOCAC. I think he's going to be traveling over there with Mnangagwa. And this was the last tweet that he made about Mnangagwa, Zhou Ding, and he also visits these tourism attractions of Zimbabwe. What I would like to say about China is there is a lot of opportunity to work with China and Zimbabwe on the high-speed rail. So high-speed rail is taking off all over Africa. There is a lot of high-speed rail coming, especially if you look at Tanzania, what they've done in Tanzania, what they've done in Ghana, and what they've done in Senegal. There is so much development taking place, and also what they've done in Nigeria. If you don't have high-speed rail, you can't develop. You need high-speed rail so that you connect areas very quickly. So I'm talking here about moving from Bulawayo to Harare in 2 hours, Bulawayo to Vic Falls. Your country can dramatically become a developed country if you put high-speed rail. So I hope that Mnangagwa, when he's over there in China, he makes use of this opportunity to find high-speed rail. We need high-speed rail in Zimbabwe, and we also need metro rail. Metro rail is yourself moving from Chitungwiza to Harare in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I use the hot train when I'm in South Africa. And you just go there and you spend more time waiting rather than traveling. Traveling is quick and it's normally cheaper. If you don't have a car, you actually don't need to have a car because these things work so well. So I hope Mnangagwa has got an idea of talking about rail. And you can see that I'm not concerned whether Mnangagwa is the one who does the rail or not, because I've got a long-term outlook, 50 years. This is how we need to look at our country. What is going to happen in 50 years? So Mnangagwa must kickstart this process, talk about rail, make sure that we get our country moving. And in 50 years' time, you won't care about Mnangagwa, you won't care who brought the rail. All you care about is how is our country doing? And our country is going to do very, very well if we do rail. But I think I should now go to some business stories. And there's a very interesting business story. So this is Simbisa or Fuma Fund. These guys are doing something massive. This company has changed from becoming a chicken company to becoming a bank and a retail company. So Simbisa has formed a company called Fuma Fund or a RAID. This is going to be registered on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. And currently they have got over 350 properties. So Chicken Inn, Bakers Inn, all these places, they now have over 300 properties. They're developing a mixed-use property in Rua and in Eastleigh, and they aim that their portfolio to be around $50 million. So this is an interesting development. They're also running Inbox, which is a way of transferring money. So an interesting company developing from just selling chicken to something bigger, which is a bank with a property portfolio. So check out Chwienga was opening something yesterday. I didn't have an opportunity to see the details of his video, but I'll check it today. All I know is that they're trying to raise $15 million. So there's going to be a massive development taking place with Fuma Fund and also with INSCO. However, what I would like to say is that the future of Zimbabwe is not in these small cities. You need a massive planned city. When I talk of a planned city, it's where you have a city that is ready-made with no one in it, which can live and keep up to 1 million people. For the example that I'm giving you always of Songdo, they build everything. It's got the metro rail, it's got shops, it's got schools, it's got farms, and people can live there. And one would be very interesting if it was put in Victoria Falls and you make that place a place where 1 million can live. You put the train connection, you develop another one for the military where they can do their research and where the military guys can have their houses. So that is the future. That is where you need to be looking at, and 50 million won't do it. To develop such a city will take at least $50 billion. The kind of projects I'm talking about that are life-changing. For example, high-speed rail. They normally take between 30 billion and 100 billion. This is where, when you talk about a $50 billion economy, you're not talking about these Mickey Mouse projects that Mnangagwa are doing, or building a road or a roundabout. They're talking about seriously sitting down and re-architecturing your country. That's why I'm talking about the military playing a key role by forming an engineering corps. We need to really look at how we're thinking. The reason why Zimbabwe hasn't been developing is because of the vision. Mnangagwa hasn't been big enough. He's been thinking about small projects. He works on everything that Mugabe has done, but he's not developing things himself. He needs to change and have a bigger picture. And I hope Chiwenga, as he starts to take over, is going to be able to have a different approach. Because what Chiwenga has got, the opportunity for Chiwenga is very interesting. He's seen all the mistakes that Mugabe has made. And now he's seeing all the mistakes that Mnangagwa is making. Chiwenga has got the opportunity to create a very developed country just because he is the man that comes after everyone has made a mistake. So it's going to be interesting for Chiwenga to see what he does, because obviously he's going to come in next, and the Bulawayo ZANU-PF Congress is just the place where he's going to need to stamp his authority. And guys, don't accuse me of supporting Chiwenga. I'm just telling you what's there. This is the situation. Chiwenga is coming, and no matter what these guys are going to do, he is going to do it, except if you take him out. The only way that Chiwenga can be the president next is if someone takes him out. And it's happening. A lot of people are dropping. So brigadier generals are just dropping left, right, and center. Yesterday, another brigadier died. Suddenly, he dropped, like he was sitting at his home and just dropped. This is the kind of stuff that is happening. So let's see what happens when they provide the detail of the burials. We're going to see what Mnangagwa is going to say here. But it's clear that Chiwenga is next in line, and there is very little resistance in his path. There is very little resistance. The guys who are left, they do not have the actual best that Chiwenga has built in the past. So I predict Chiwenga easily replacing Mnangagwa. It won't be difficult at all, although other people seem to think it is going to be difficult. Then Pastor Ivan Mawarire has had an interview yesterday. You can go and check it out on YouTube. He's always speaking to different organizations all over the world. And I think he's showing good interest in what is happening in Zimbabwe. He's gaining a little bit of weight. You can see it on his midsection. When you go to America, the food there tends to make you a bit big. Like within a week, when I was in the States for a week, I could immediately see my body growing. But I think he's getting there. He's keeping his workouts all good. Then in South Africa, we have this young man here. Sorry, not that one. This one. That is Hamilton Ndlovu. And Hamilton Ndlovu has been in the news because he got tenders for 157 million rands. And after getting those tenders, he went and bought a whole bunch of cars, including a Lamborghini Urus, one of the cars that that Wajajena has got. These are the only two cars in South Africa. In fact, in Africa, these cars are rare. It's very hard to find that Lamborghini Urus that Wajajena has got. This Lamborghini Urus here, if you are driving in South Africa, one of the richest countries, you can't find this thing. It's very hard to find. So young Hamilton Ndlovu bought one. If you look on the right, he bought one of those cars, the white one. And then he wrapped it into yellow, just like Wajajena. So this car also became yellow. And yesterday there was an auction for this car. And it had 400 bidders. 400 people were trying to buy that car on auction. Eventually, the car sold for 1 million rands more than what it was supposed to sell. It was confiscated among his other cars that he bought. This bunch of cars here. He bought his whole family 10 cars when he was involved in that corrupt deal. And someone In fact, so many people were watching this car as it went on auction that 400 people wanted to buy it, and they eventually sold it for 1 million, as I said, more than they were anticipating. Among other cars, they also sold his normal cars that was driving, and the total amount that was received was 80 million rands for his cars. Then his house was also auctioned previously. This is his house here that he bought in South Africa after the deal. And so far, they've only received or retrieved, I think, close to 50 million out of the 157 million rands that was stolen from this whole corrupt deal. So you can see corruption is massive. Today's press has got so much corruption that has happened. There's another corruption deal which has happened at the National Lottery, almost 1.2 billion that is being recovered in property. Guys who steal, they don't think of anything but buying houses and cars. It's crazy. I don't understand why people like houses and cars so much. You only need one house. You don't need like 10 houses. In fact, what I would say for like my focus right now would be on civil servants in the army. You can actually develop massive housing for those guys there. They work in the same space. They can share transport. They can share schools. And if you put them in one place, it's very easy to quickly develop. So the planned cities, it's better to do that than to waste money on these individual things that are happening. So people who steal money, like in Zimbabwe, when they steal money, like the allegations that Hopewell has made, that 3 billion was stolen on the first month that Mnangagwa came into office. That 3 billion, you can do a lot. With 3 billion, you can develop the country. But these guys who are stealing, they don't seem to think that way. They think in another way, in their own way, which is to accumulate houses and cars, Range Rovers. It's as if the Range Rover is the most loved car by corrupt people. Then let's go to another interesting development. So the MK party has sworn in, or MK party MPs have been sworn in yesterday. And this includes some very prominent people like Prime Molefe. And if you look at the center there's Papa Penny. He's a musician from Limpopo. I think everyone who knows Papa Penny knows that he's a very prominent musician. So he was sworn in as the MK MP. You can see Brian Molefe over there. And Mani is now the chief whip of the MK in the South African Parliament. And obviously that's Papa Penny with Jacob Zuma over here, a very prominent member of the MK party. Jacob Zuma has been doing an amazing job building his party. He has been collecting prominent people from different places. And I won't be surprised if the MK does very, very well in the next elections, much better than the ANC, because what the MK is doing is simply picking up skilled people, CEOs, people who were under the old setup. They were being demonized in the media because they didn't have media access. So the South African media is very interesting. It's owned by a small group of people. And you can actually start having a bad image because you don't have access to the media. So what the Zuma has done is just ignoring everything that has been said in the media and is collecting those guys who are very experienced, who are very qualified, and putting them together. Imagine people like Floyd Shivambu, they're all now going to the MK. And that's an interesting strategy because in the long run, the more qualified people you have in your organization, the more successful you become. So I think I've covered most of the stuff that I wanted to cover here today. You can go and check out the summary by Hopewell Chin'ono. Yes, Hopewell Chin'ono, very interesting discussion, but I just have a feeling that Chin'ono has given up an opportunity and it will be very difficult for him to come back from this position. If I was Chin'ono, I would have pushed forward and formed an organization and said, I'm going to go into the political space. So what Chin'ono has done is he's increased the leadership vacuum. Now we don't have Chin'ono, we don't have Chamisa, and we don't know who else is going to come next. And guys like Gambakwe are only talking about a 50-year strategy. They're not talking about being in a political party. So I was hoping that Chin'ono would have come in and created something that would challenge ZANU-PF and also challenge Chamisa, so that would close the vacuum, the leadership vacuum. The leadership vacuum that has been created by Chamisa is because he has just pulled back. He has said he's not going to be in politics, but he's also said he's still in politics. So it's difficult for people to get in because Chamisa's people are still expecting him to come back. But at the same time, he has not formed anything. That is the quarrel between Ibo Mandaza and Nelson Chamisa, and that is the quarrel between Chamisa and Hopewell. This quarrel is not going to end. It's only going to end when we've got an alternative political party. And guys like Mkwananzi, they will not grow because they only get their support from supporting Chamisa. So Timber cannot go against Chamisa the way that Hopewell has. Hopewell has come out, he has made statements about Nelson Chamisa. He has said he does not support the way Chamisa's strategy works, and he still has supporters. So Hopewell has not lost his supporters, but he has failed to go that extra distance, which is to say, Chamisa's approach is not working. Now I'm going to present to you a new approach. And that is where most guys fail. If you do that now, by the time it's 2028, you actually stand a chance of building your brand. But Chin'ono said he's leaving the country, he's not coming back. He's going to be working with the people in the diaspora, the people who are his supporters and the people that are influential that he knows. He says he can walk into any president's office, well, maybe not any, but he can walk into a president's office and get things done. And I think that's not enough. What you need to be able to do is to present a strategy and a blueprint that can get people to sit up and notice. For example, high-speed rail. When you talk of high-speed rail, Munakati, high-speed rail, you know that's Gambakwe. The problem is Chin'ono has criticized Chamisa, but he has not presented an alternative on the ground. And that is where we need to see someone stepping in. What is the alternative on the ground? And I've got voice notes here from Chin'ono supporters. They also thought he was going to do something else. So I do not want to think that Chin'ono has just suddenly discovered that he didn't form a government in exile. I believe that something has happened that made him step back and walk back on that announcement that he made last week. Now, let's look quickly at the comments. Chin'ono, much of a fool that will die with false pride and bitterness. I don't agree that Chin'ono is a fool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play for you a portion from the interview where Hopewell explains his journey in the UK, how he got the scholarships, and his journey at Harvard. So these are not fools, guys. The fool is the person who thinks that only one person in the country can lead. I don't believe that. So don't believe that the only way Zimbabwe will do well is if Chamisa is the president. So let's move away from that one. The only way that Zimbabwe can do well is if we've got a proper strategy. So, like a 50-year strategy. Don't say because someone else has spoken, then he's a fool. I disagree with that one. I don't think that is the way to think. That is the Chipo school of ideology kind of thinking. Then Chipo says the only way how Chiwenga will not be president is if there is a free and fair election. That's not true. Chiwenga is going to be the president because ZANU-PF is a structured party. So what the opposition needs to do is to create something that can counter ZANU-PF at the ward level, at the provincial level, and at the national level. That is where we need to work. And that is not just having supporters, but having a structure. You remember what I said about President Hakainde Hichilema when he started out. President Hakainde Hichilema had support across the whole country. But his opponents, they failed because at a structural level, they could not see him coming on the ground. So President Hakainde Hichilema sent people underground who were working at the ward level and at the provincial level. How are you going to win the election in Uzumba, Rambafungwe? How are you going to win the election in Mashonaland West? How are you going to win the election in Masvingo? Those are the questions that make you a president. And that takes work, that takes a strategy. So don't think that Chiwenga won't win if we're talking that way. I'm talking here of how you politically position yourself for success. At the moment, that is not there. And my focus is not on the elections. My focus is on the transitional system. We need to put a transitional system in place. And it's very difficult for me to go into the 2028 elections. I cannot think of us going 4 years with this current situation. We need a dialogue, and then we'll move on to a transitional system. Then Ngomhebe say Chinese are busy taking over the country. Nothing good is coming out of them. That's not true. They're only doing that in Zimbabwe because that is what Mnangagwa can offer. Take the Chinese into the rail industry. Zimbabwe already has rail across the whole country. If you take the Chinese into tourism, into rail, into planned cities, they will stop this digging. The money that they will make in the rail is billions and billions. The rail industry has got so much money, especially high-speed rail. If you plan it properly, there are routes or destinations that have got a lot of money. Harare, Victoria Falls, Chitungwiza, Harare, Harare, Gokwe, Kamativi. I was talking to guys over there. Lusaka, Beira, Bedbridge, Johannesburg, or Harare. Those are the routes that can make you money without fail. You make a lot of money. And Zimbabwe is very small. So other countries have got thousands and thousands of kilometers to travel. In Zimbabwe, if you put a central station at Gweru, and you make people move from Gweru to Vic Falls, Gweru to Harare, Gweru to Mtare, all that is less than 2 hours travel. So eventually, we're going to have a rail system, but it needs to start now. Then Mkoma Marvin says, "Scarf your boy, akomana, scarf more." All right, I think we've covered a lot here. I'm enjoying a lot the discussions that are taking place. So do not take most of the stuff that you hear on social media seriously. For example, someone says Mabiza is going to be vice president. That will never happen. Those people have got no constituency. Chiwenga is different. He's got a big constituency. Just like I was telling about Hopewell. Hopewell's got a big constituency. You cannot erase someone like Hopewell from the environment. It's not possible. So if you're a leader of a political party, even if your supporters make a lot of noise, those are the people that can get away your opportunity to become a president. So there's a coup which happened in Mugabe. We all know coup is not allowed internationally. Masada kept quiet. The government in Zimbabwe is a military government. Hopewell is talking nonsense. Yeah, I think we've covered Hopewell, and Hopewell has said that people must stop attacking him. And anyone who says that he's forming a government in exile, he is being malicious and wants him to get arrested. So let me just clarify myself here. I'm not interested in saying Hopewell should be arrested or that he's forming a government in exile. We are talking about what was said. So if he says he didn't say it, then he did say it. And if he says he's leaving the country for good, that is his decision. I'm not going to leave Zimbabwe for good. I'll be making a lot of noise, and we're going to be in the game. I'm not going to get out of the game. Don't remove yourself from the game. You never know what will happen. Maybe your opponent will drop and die, and then we'll be in the game. Then Gambakwe, listen to what Simbachkanza said about Hopewell. Yes, Simbachkanza and Hopewell, they've got a fight to the death, what I call a war of attrition. Like when the two guys are finished, one is going to drop to the left and die, and the one is going to drop to the right and die. That is what we call a war of attrition between the two guys. Okay, I think we've covered everything here. So let's recap. Hopewell Chin'ono has gone on a space. He has said he's not forming a government in exile. He has explained that what he's forming is more like a structure for getting assistance to Zimbabwe and for using his connections to help the country. He has also said he will not say anything anymore about Nelson Chamisa, and he has previously approached Nelson Chamisa with his ideas, but Chamisa has not taken up those ideas. So that is where we are. And I would like to thank all of you for watching. I've slightly passed my allocated time of 30 minutes in the mornings. I'm ending up speaking longer than Makandiwa. So I'm speaking longer than Makandiwa. It's crazy. I normally watch Makandiwa on Sundays. You should go check it out. Very interesting sermons, but I tend to watch like the first hour, and then after that, I don't have enough time. So I don't want to be like that. So the key event that we're looking at is the Brigadier General's funeral, and then General Chiwenga in Victoria Falls today. General Chiwenga is guest of honor over there, and let's see what happens. Namatai Kwekwedza has appeared in court. She's back on the 5th. I don't know why they're keeping her in jail. That girl has done nothing. Same to Bishop Nyamakanga. I think Bishop Nyamakanga is appearing today, if I'm not mistaken. And also the other guys, Ngaravume is probably appearing today. The CCC guys are probably out today, 70 of them. They're appearing in court. There was an application for discharge, and the judge is going to make a ruling today. I'll be so happy if they get out. Mnangagwa is destroying our country. Mnangagwa arikuraya vanhu nenzara. Toita sei nevanhu vekumasvingo. These guys are a mess. Ana Mnangagwa, ana Mufandaedza, they're killing our country. They come with all sorts of crazy schemes. Mnangagwa, what does he think he's achieving by arresting people and keeping them in jail? Do you know anonzi mabaranzi? Kudhara kana zvinzi munhu ibaranzi. Ndozvikuita Mnangagwa, chibaranzi chekumusha kusunga vanhu uchivachengeta mujere. Chibaranzi. So I would like to thank all of you for watching. I'll see you in the evening. And we are watching the situation in South Africa. Currently, women are keeping a vigil at the dam, where it's expected that bodies of young men that were banned by the South African military or soldiers are in that dam. So let's see what happens today, how many bodies they manage to pull out. I'll be keeping you guys updated in the evening. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching.